Well, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here to have the opportunity to talk about the College Success Foundation, and I feel a certain pressure. We have some great champions, sponsors, benefactors. You've invested a lot into this program, and I think you probably have high expectations of this morning as a speaker. I'm following some terrific student speakers, Christopher, Kira, William, but there's a little bit of additional pressure. My wife, Tricia, is on the board of directors of the College Success Foundation, and she sets high expectations in the family. So, Tricia, thank you for all you do. Well, it's very easy for me to tell you how strongly I believe in the College Success Foundation. It's a little bit harder to tell you why I feel so strongly, and that's because I'm connected to this work in three distinct ways. So the reasons I feel strongly change depending upon what hat I'm wearing. Let me start with the hat that I wear most often, my Gates Foundation hat. Before I started working with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation as CEO of their foundation, I worked with both of them at Microsoft. And so the three of us come at things from a similar angle. The highest ideal of the personal computer revolution was access. We wanted to give ordinary people the knowledge and power of great computing and software that previously had only been available to large organizations. And so I spent most of my career co-leading the creation of the Microsoft Office suite. Do we have any users here of Microsoft Office? So it was time for me to find another job. We were driven by the idea that we were putting the functionality of an entire office system at everybody's fingertip. Now, that ideal of access was also behind the first major gift of the Gates Foundation, $1 billion for higher education scholarships distributed through the United Negro College Fund. When that program was announced, called the Gates Millennium Scholars, it got my attention. I was still working hard at Microsoft, but I started following Bill and Melinda's giving until I followed it all the way to my current position. The Gates Millennium Scholars Program came during a time of an attack on affirmative action. And it prompted one magazine to run a very sarcastic title or article titled, "$1 billion is a terrible thing to waste." We have since expanded that grant to almost $2 billion. Now, of course, these scholarships tend to go to the more fortunate students, the ones who got an excellent high school education and are ready to succeed in college or graduate school. But there are millions of students who don't have those advantages. What about them? Our schools are supposed to be a pillar of democracy, a promise that anyone who works hard can get the high-quality education to reach their goals in life. Education is supposed to be the great equalizer. Yet perversely, the great equalizer in America is stained with inequality. Our public schools range from outstanding to outrageous. And where a child's school is located on that spectrum is a matter of luck. Where you live, when you were born, who your parents are. There is already enough in life that depends on luck. And when it comes to education, we should replace luck with equity. Now, since I'm a numbers guy, I want to describe for you one vexing problem using a little bit of data about the science, technology, engineering, and math fields, the so-called STEM fields. We project that every single year there will be 1 million openings for high-paying STEM jobs that require some college. Now, these fields are where the opportunities of the future will lie. But today our education system simply isn't giving students the skills they need to seize those opportunities. So let's take a close look at the numbers. In a typical year, in this country, more than 4 million students start the 9th grade. 4 years later, 3 million graduate. That's right. In our country, only about 70% of our youth graduate from high school. Only 70%. And we project that only half of those 70% are really prepared for post-secondary success. So of the roughly 3 million high school graduates, fewer than 1.5 million are prepared for college. So to review, we started with 4 million, and we're down to 1.5 million by the time college starts. Out of that group, less than a quarter declares a major in a STEM field. So now that takes us down to about 300,000. And out of that, and just over half of those students will get a degree on time. So we started out with more than 4 million 14-year-olds ending up as fewer than 200,000 STEM graduates. And fewer than 10% of those are Black or Latino students. Which tells me that instead of making social divisions better, our system is making them worse. Now, schools are a part of this system, as is the high level of poverty. It's stunning to know that 20% of our youth in this country live in the circumstances of poverty, and more than 32% right here in Washington, D.C. Now, there are many elements or parts to the solutions to the problems of equity in education. The Gates Foundation is working on some of them. We have a goal of making sure that every student has an effective teacher and that every teacher has the support to do their best work. At the post-secondary level, we have a goal of increasing completion rates because the way college is designed makes it very difficult for young people who are balancing jobs and family responsibilities to make it through. I was stunned when I came to the Gates Foundation to learn that of the students who start in a 4-year school, only 55% of them will complete a degree in 6 years. Of the students who start in a 2-year school, a community college, only 33% of them will complete in 3 years. These are tough challenges that in this country we have to take on. The College Success Foundation is a critical part of the solution. The scholarship money is extremely important, and I thank you for that. It clears away an obvious barrier. But to me, what really differentiates the College Success Foundation is the support structure for students. And this gives me the opportunity to put on my second hat. My hat as a philanthropist with our own family foundation, the Raikes Foundation, which I co-founded with Tricia about 8 years ago. The mission of Tricia and my family foundation was sparked more than 10 years ago by a young girl. Middle school often felt like an exercise in survival for her. She couldn't figure out how to fit in. There were those days when she felt bullied and excluded, and those signals made her feel that there was something wrong with her. It had an impact on her self-esteem. And that rolled over to her own sense of intellectual capacity, her academic success. It was hard for her to see the extraordinary gifts that she had to give to the world. She went on to a great high school, a healthier environment, where she found her voice, and she tapped into her academic potential and passion for helping others. That young girl, now a young woman, is our oldest daughter, Michaela. She's 25. She has a master's degree from Stanford University and is a high school history teacher who is positively impacting the lives of all the students in her class, with a particular focus on kids who live in poverty. And Michaela has had a number of great mentors that helped her to get to that role. And this morning, I want to acknowledge somebody who was a great mentor to her as a student teacher. I sat in his classroom. He's outstanding, and I'm thankful that he's on a fellowship here in Washington, D.C. with the Department of Education to share what he knows to do in the classroom so that not just Michaela Raikes, but all teachers in our country can have that kind of support in order to do great work. So I want to say thank you to Marciano Gutierrez for your support of Michaela. Thanks. Still, after all of those years, the painful memories of her middle school years remain. And as you can tell, probably a little bit for me and for Tricia as well. Michaela's challenge has been a great source of inspiration for Tricia and me in guiding the Raikes Foundation, where we are working to understand those middle school years and find ways to empower adolescents to get on the right trajectory at a critical time of development. At the Raikes Foundation, we discovered research that confirmed impressions formed from our own experiences with our own children, that the adolescent years are some of the most formative of a young person's life. Those are the years when our children can either lose their way or grow more determined to finish high school, to go on to college, and to be ready for a successful transition to adulthood and ultimately life. And finally, as we learned more about how and what would help adolescents, we grew interested in student agency, the mindsets and learning strategies that kids need to succeed in life. We're learning about how to develop programs that will instill goal setting, self-efficacy, growth mindsets, relationship building, persistence, skills that are too often overlooked by schools. But they are the very heart of the College Success Foundation and what it does, with an approach that reaches all the way back to the student's middle school years and provides the comprehensive support structure that a student needs to succeed. The College Success Foundation combines several pieces that don't get combined in most cases: academic preparation, mentoring, financial means, and support for developing the non-cognitive factors that are key to success. So I've defined college success from the perspectives as a CEO of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as the founder, a co-founder of the Raikes Foundation. But I want to conclude wearing my third hat. I want to talk about college success from my personal perspective as Jeff, the farm kid from Nebraska. Now, I've loved math and science for as long as I can remember. My dad was trained as a chemical engineer, and he brought an engineer's mind and discipline to running our family farm. He always said that his training in engineering helped save our family farm during the Great Depression. My mother was a high school chemistry teacher and later in her career a junior high science teacher. Alice Raikes was tough as nails. She insisted, she set high expectations, she insisted that her 7th and 8th grade students, including me, write up professional quality lab reports starting with our hypothesis. From our little hometown, one of my best friends, Clay Anderson, is an astronaut now and has spent 6 months on the space station. He gives my mom a great deal of the credit for his success. So you see, I was pretty good in math and science, and I was pretty hopeful about my future. Then I went to Stanford. Naturally, given my career goals, I took engineering calculus my first quarter. Everything was fine, or I thought so, until that first midterm exam. That was before Professor Peter Winkler handed it back, and I remember him announcing that the median was 80. So when I saw that my grade was 47, I decided I should probably drop out and head back to Nebraska. Now, I thought this farm kid wasn't the same caliber as the other Stanford students. So try to imagine where I was coming from. I aced advanced math at Ashland Greenwood High School in our town of 2,000. I won the science fair. And if those things translated into being lapped, being doubled up by everyone in my first class at Stanford, then I figured it was time to go back home. Luckily, Professor Winkler intervened. He told me that most of my classmates had gone to fancy public and private schools and learned that they had calculus in high school. I thought, wow, I took advanced math. They got calculus? And he said that they'd learned everything on the midterm the year before. And he promised me that we'd burn through the stuff they already knew. He predicted they'd get complacent. And he gave me hope that I could turn things around. He also taught me how to study. I thought I only needed to read the textbook. He introduced me to doing problem sets. lots of problem sets. I didn't know it then, but I can look back now, given the research that I followed with Tricia at the Raikes Foundation, and realize that what Peter Winkler did is he instilled in me the student agency that I needed to succeed. He gave me the academic mindset and the learning strategies that I needed to succeed. So I didn't drop out. I stuck around. I did my problem sets, and I proved Professor Winkler right. I got a 92 on the next midterm, and the median was 67. And although I only got a B in that class, I'm very proud of that B. So I remember those numbers so clearly because they mark what I now think of as my own personal resurrection. I ended up getting a degree in engineering economic systems at Stanford and building 2 satisfying careers. And given what I'm learning at the Raikes Foundation, I see this as the moment in time, that moment in time, when I shifted from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. It was a key time when, with help from a mentor, I got that sense of agency that I needed to guide me through. But sometimes I reflect on how close I came to giving up. And I was lucky, very lucky. I had years of support from wonderful teachers and from my parents. How many talented students don't have those advantages? How many never make it? That number is much too high. But it is getting lower here in Washington, D.C., thanks to the College Success Foundation. The foundation provides the equivalent of the support that got me through college, and it does so for kids who are toughing, frankly, facing much tougher circumstances. So personally, I know how thin the line between frustration and success can be. I know how the tiniest interventions at the right time, a boost of confidence, for example, can send you down the right track instead of the wrong one. The College Success Foundation is in the business of sending promising young people down the right track. Like the Raikes Foundation, it focuses in on the mindsets, the student agency that lead to a rewarding future. And like the Gates Foundation, it seeks to replace luck with equity. The College Success Foundation is a fantastic program, and I'm proud I could be here to talk about the many reasons why, and again, I thank you for support of this great program. Thank you very much.